Welcome to another Trains of Thought video. I apologize for the condition of my voice. Allergies are definitely getting the better of me right now. I'm thinking about modeling all the time and the psychological aspects of modeling. So I should do these more often, but I don't. Today's video is, I have to shout out a podcast that gave me the kernel of the idea for this video. And that podcast is Her Shrink Ray Eye. Her Shrink Ray Eye. And this is done by Joan Bediger. Hope I didn't mispronounce your last name there, Joan. Joan is there's my voice. Joan is the wife of one of the guys who does the Small Subjects podcast, which I've mentioned before. Joan is also into miniatures, painting tiny figures, making little vignettes with them, and box dioramas and things like that. So she thinks about modeling. And I thought that her analysis and ideas in a recent podcast that she just did, and by the way, this is being recorded in early April of 2026, if you want to go back and find her podcast about this, and I recommend that, is about kind of the uncanny nature of working in miniature. And so let's start at the beginning. The objective of every work that's done in miniature is to convince the viewer that it's real to some extent, right? And so that is very magical, but that is also leads to certain difficulties. Now, some work succeeds more than others at convincing the viewers that it's real. Why is this? Or at least some work doesn't create a sense of unease when someone looks at that miniature object and says, that's not real in a certain sense, because we are trying to make them think that some inanimate object is a live object, for example, in the case of a figure. We're trying to get them to convince them that some tiny building is in fact a good representation of a real building. We don't always carry that off. And when we don't, that creates a certain unease in the viewer. So some work really succeeds. It draws us in and we agree, we accept the creator's request. We believe the illusion that this is a miniature house, a miniature train, a miniature person, whatever it is. And we accept that and we're drawn into the fantasy that the creator wants us to be drawn into. In other work, it's clear they're not trying to create something real and an illusion of reality, and so we don't have any uneasy feeling. But in other work, we don't get drawn in and it seems odd to us. And that's a lot of work. That's most of the miniature work that's being done. And so what is it about these things? And what can we do to make sure that our layouts don't create a sense of unease in our viewers? Sorry again about my gravelly voice. What can I say? To a certain extent, we can look at work that's been done on something called the Uncanny Valley. So there's been a lot of work. There was a study done by a Japanese man many years ago, I think in the 70s or 80s. Could be wrong about that date, sorry, but about the Uncanny Valley. And the Uncanny Valley relates to robotics and androids. And the concept is that when there is an android that doesn't really look like a human being, we're comfortable with that. And when androids or robots are really good impressions of people and we can't really tell the difference, then we're also okay with that. But in between those two is something called the Uncanny Valley, where we look at this android and we say, that's weird, that's not real, that's not right. Our modern day a modern day example of this is AI, right? AI is getting better and better, and it's getting closer and closer to the end of the Uncanny Valley. But for the last few years, there's been a lot of stuff created by AI, and we go, that's not right. That was not created by a human being. That is strange, okay? Well, it's that sense of unease that can also happen when you're trying to invite someone into your miniature world. You can create an unease. And a lot of people, I think, do create that unease where people say, that's not, that's not really good. That's not really impressing me. Again, so that's what the Uncanny Valley is, right? Robbie the robot in Lost in Space was clearly a robot. We were totally comfortable with Robbie. In Blade Runner, the androids were excellent imitations of humans. We were totally comfortable with them. In the middle is the Uncanny Valley. Okay, there's another example for you. So what is this Uncanny Valley about? I think we have to get a little more general. Obviously, the Uncanny Valley is about robotics. But what we're really talking about here when people look at our layouts is cognitive dissonance, generally, right? They're looking at this and they're saying, the maker wants me to believe this is a street scene in 1950 in Ohio. And the question is, does the viewer really buy into that, or do they not? Do they say, well, that doesn't look quite right? And why do they not really buy into this? So again, I think if you look at layouts, there are the two extremes where viewers do not have a sense of unease. On the one hand, we have toy trains where scale is manipulated, where there's really not a lot of effort made to weather equipment to make it seem real. That's not the idea. It's clearly play. It's clearly toys. So when a viewer looks at a toy train layout, they know they're not being asked to think that this is a real scene or a great representation of reality. And that's okay. It's fun. That's what it is. It's the model railroad layout equivalent of Robbie the robot. They're happy with it. It's fun. They understand it's a robot. They understand it's a toy train layout. No problem. On the other end of the spectrum, the Blade Runner end of the Android spectrum is great layout. Something done by Lance Mindheim or Pella Soberg or maybe the Franklin in South Manchester. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But a great layout where there are so many details that are right, so many aspects that are right, from the equipment, the weathering, the painting, the detailing. Everything is right for a street scene in 1950 or 1955, whatever the builder intended. So when we look at that layout, we buy into the illusion right away, and we're drawn right into the scene. And the magic has worked. But unfortunately, there's a big gap between toy train layouts and Lance Mindheim or Pella Soberg. And that is the Uncanny Valley for layouts. So what can we do? I made a short list here of the things that I think can be done to minimize the Uncanny Valley. Now, the first thing is you may not give a damn about the Uncanny Valley. It's just a hobby. You may be building for yourself. You may not really care what other people think about your layout. And if that's true, that is so cool. That's just fine. I love it. Again, I apologize for my voice. I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Now, the second solution is to do great modeling. To be Pella Soberg, to be Lance Mindheim. You don't have to be that great, but to really get your layout down so that all of the details work. And I've operated on a layout like this with Dr. Tom, thank you, where so much of the layout is so well done that you really buy into the scene and there's nothing jarring where you go, oh, this is just a model. No, you're not thinking about that. You're actually operating the layout, and the layout works great. So that's solution number 2. Solution number 3 is to emphasize moving trains. That's what makes model trains special. That's what Joan Bettinger and the other people doing static miniature work don't have in their favor. They don't have motion. We have motion. We also have the 4th thing on my list, which is we have sound. We have lights. We have things that we can do to simulate the real world that will create a deeper illusion than just our models. And so we need to use those things if we want to reduce people's feeling of unease when they're looking at our miniature world and they're thinking, oh, this is not real, this is just a toy, right? And the last thing that I have for you is kind of to embrace some of the elements of the toy railroad, of play, and give the viewer permission to accept, oh, this is fun. I don't really have to be uneasy about the fact that the detailing isn't perfect here, because the creator is not trying to make a perfect representation of the world. And this means having some fun, injecting some humor into advertising or other elements of your railroad, having, Easter eggs that are clearly, like Yeti or the Loch Ness Monster, having these things on your layout. Tell the viewer of your layout, hey, isn't this fun? This is a toy. This is a toy. Just accept it as a toy. You don't have to totally buy into the illusion in order to have fun with this layout. So those are really the only ideas I have. You may have some other ideas of how to reduce the unease of visitors when they're looking at your layout. Or maybe you don't really care, and maybe I'm just making up this issue, and I would welcome you to tell me that in the comments. Again, I apologize for the quality of my voice, but I really wanted to get some content out for you today. So I hope you can understand what I'm saying. Don't worry about my health. I'm feeling fine. It's just my voice. My head is all congested from allergy season here in Pittsburgh. So let me know in the comments if you have any thoughts or suggestions, whether you think this idea is not really that significant, or whether you have, what ways do you have to make people comfortable and buy into the illusion that you're creating on your layout. That's all I've got for you today. This is Bob Johnson with PK&W Model Works signing off. Keep on creating illusions. Keep on modeling. Bye-bye until next time.